I must share with yourself, I was here about 2 months ago looking at the venue, and I actually looked at the dam and I said to myself it would be lovely at the AGM if it's full. I was optimistic. Unfortunately, it's not full. If you look at the economy, it's tight out there, but we're optimistic that we'll make a difference. If I look at the agenda for today, quite a lot. I'm going to look at the results. I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy. I think it's important that we share it with yourself. We're going to talk about our clients, our client growth, the banking clients. We're going to talk about the credit environment, and then our international acquisition of Cream. And then I think most important is actually to look at the future. Where's the bank going? Where do we see it in 2025? So we would like to share that with yourself. But before I do that, we thought it would be appropriate to actually show a short video just on what is happening in the bank, as well as what was for us very important is in September we launched the credit card. There was about 200 people working on the credit card for the last year and a half. And that weekend that we had to go live, there was about 100 people over that whole weekend working basically 48 hours to make certain on that Monday morning that we can go live and everything is working. And everything was 100% correct. So I would like to share that video with yourself.
As a company, we believe the client is always first in everything we do. We all know by now that the better we do our jobs, the better the client experience becomes, the better our market penetration becomes, the better the company does, and the better the team rewards become. Our recent achievements speak for themselves. NDO results reported an 18% growth in headline earnings per share. Currently, we have 13,143 employees working for us. We pushed the boundaries of existing technology to build our credit card system from the ground up, giving our clients yet another way to bank better.
One of the challenges we had to face is specifically building the product from unknown base, where we had similar performance in some of our loan products. However, we never had a credit card.
You can go and buy a credit card system, plug it in, but the problem is that it doesn't integrate well into your main system. So if you have to do FICA as an example, you would have to FICA your credit card and you'd have to FICA your Global One account. This just doesn't make sense for the client. There's no simplicity in that. To maintain what we deem to be a competitive edge of a single view of the client, the bold decision in hindsight was probably a good one.
We've had people that have worked through the night actually, so dedication is awesome and fantastic, everybody that's been involved.
So everybody's excited to get the product out there, and it's been a great team effort.
It's one of the biggest promotions, if not the biggest promotion, since I've started with Capitec Bank, and I'm overly excited.
It's been great. I like the fact that I can just say credit or savings and sound cool at the merchants, and they're like, oh, Capitec. And I was like, yeah, didn't you know? We're great, Moss.
Boom.
Gary told me that he will literally murder me if we don't get the credit card live. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, in a joking way.
And this is where the excitement and the nervousness comes. I mean, you never really know what the client's going to do when they're out there, because you have this unknown anomaly of a client. What do they think? What do they feel?
There were lots of people that had the sentiment, like when Capitec Bank was born, they said to us, listen, you guys are nuts. What I can however say is that for the biggest system deployment that we've had in the history, we've had in comparison, we've had very little issues, and I think that's a huge milestone for the bank.
And just the other day we got the prize literally for the best retail bank in the world. So I'm going to say the same thing for the credit card. We must make it the best credit card in the world.
Special thanks to each and every one. I know it was hard work, long hours, especially those last couple of months.
Since launch, we have opened more than 130,000 credit card accounts, and this with a soft launch approach. Our market share grew to more than 25%. In 2006, we had 2% of the market share. Just 10 years later, More than 25% of all banking customers use Capitec Bank as their primary bank. Our client base went past the 8.6 million mark. And in January 2017 alone, we gained 170,000 new clients. That's more than 2 packed stadiums of new clients in 1 month. It is very important that all our people understand exactly why we do things the way we do. Most importantly, why we are in business and what we want to achieve in the marketplace. Why do we exist? Quite simply, to help our clients bank better so they can live better.
Yeah, I think you can see the credit card was a big effort. There's not very few banks that has got a fully integrated credit card system, and it gives us that ability to actually optimize our client base. If I look at the key indicators for the year achieved, our earnings per share grow with 18% to 3.8 billion rand. I think if you look at that, I said last year at the AGM and previously I said the economy to a certain extent is going to help us because people are looking for value for money on the transactional side, strong growth. And then it's going to be a difficult year on the credit side, but I think overall we've grown our credit book and income with about 12%. So overall are we quite happy to, in a very tough environment, to show a 18% earnings per share growth. If we look at our return on equity, 27%, our target is 25%. We said to ourselves we would like to take that down to 22%, and that's enabling us to actually reduce our prices on our lending side to attract more quality clients. We're going in on the 10th of June, whereby a certain amount of our loans will be granted at a much lower rate that we're currently granting to make certain that we attract that client base. So we're quite happy with a return on equity of 27%. If we look at cost to income ratio, 34%, stable for the last 3 years. If you look at our investments that we've done in the last year, 1 billion rand in CAPEX. We've appointed about 120 people on the IT side, and IT people is not cheap, they're expensive. We've opened up 78 branches. We redesigned about 110 branches, and we put out about 400 ATMs. So to get your cost to income ratio flat at 34%, I think it's extremely good performance. If I look at our transactional income, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that we would like to cover all our operating expenses, therefore 100% by our transactional income. So our credit then is basically for free. We on 72% of our cost is covered by transactional income, so very nice growth of about 30% on the transactional side, so we're doing extremely well in that particular area. And then, or just maybe going back to that, 37% of our income is now coming from our transactional side. So I think overall we had a very good performance. If I look at the economy, interesting times. I put the 2 words there, unexpected and volatility. I think if you look at what's happened locally, I met the DA leader, Moses Mani, about a year and a half ago. He said to me, they're going to take over the 4 metropoles. I thought by myself, he's crazy. And we all know what's happened. They've taken Western Cape, they've taken the PE, they've taken Joburg, they've taken Pretoria, and that within a year and a half. I was quite a lot in London, and nobody thought Brexit is going to happen. Yet it happened. And then I think the biggest surprise of all was Trump. Nobody expected Trump to happen. And as we woke up that morning, we suddenly realized we've got a new president in America. Nobody expected that. I think that's the volatility that we're living with. I was just now in France attending the MasterCard board meeting, and we spent quite a lot of time on Trump and the effect of Trump on the world economy. And the one thing that they said is he will operate legally, but he will operate outside the norm. So not in the norm that we expect. If you look at it, he's a businessman, he's a deal maker. So you can look at deals, and he's starting to make deals with China and Saudi Arabia. So there will be a lot of deals. But if you look at the White House, the Congress, that's completely understaffed. It's not his forte. That's not what he's going to focus on. I think that the message that we're getting across is if you look at America, when it sneezes, we get a cold. I think we're going to see a lot of volatility coming through. The one thing that we've learned in the last year to 2 years is we always looked at economical risk, but suddenly there's a new factor, political risk. What you plan today and what's going to happen tomorrow, you don't know. I was actually said to asset managers just before Provan Gordon was released from his job. I actually said to him, I think South Africa is going to be stable, Proven is safe, the exchange rate is looking positive, the interest rates are looking positive, everything is looking fine, and we all hope, know what happened on that Monday. So political risk is the new thing that we need to manage, and we need to be prepared for political risk. Just what have we experienced? You can clearly see if you look at those two graphs, retrenchments, 2014-15 was the high, and then last year we started quite high, and it actually slowly came down to levels between 2015 and 2017. And if you look at the first 4 or 5 months of this year, we definitely see a slowdown in retrenchments. So what we have seen is a lot of voluntary retrenchments. So instead of offering a retrenchment package, a person is offering a voluntary retrenchment package where he can actually then decide to go. What is quite interesting, because we cover the person fully for retrenchment. If he takes a voluntary, he's not covered, but he's covered when he is fully retrenched. Debt review, everyone is suddenly given the pressure, and I'll show you now slides on the pressure. Everyone is now running to debt review, and you can see that graph going up, and we're still seeing that graph continue, especially to your 15 to 20,000 Rand income earners. There's a big increase in debt review. If we look at inflation, I think that's a graph that, if you look at it, you can clearly see what the drought has done last year to South Africa. Our inflation was around about 4%, has gone up to 7%. And then you can see inflation going 9%, 12% on the food side. And if you look at the lower income, where maize is an important component, that went up to 18%. And you can see the effect of that on people not earning a high income. Currently, inflation is down to 5.2, 5.3%. The expectation is that it would be around about there. The biggest driver of that is the food inflation that's coming down. So I think on the inflation side, let's be optimistic and say the interest rates will drop probably in the next 6 months, but we believe it's going to be quite stable. But I think it's important to understand what inflation has done to our client base. This graph is quite busy, but what we've done is just to look at 2.7 million clients that's banking with ourselves, to look at what has happened with the inflows, what has the economy actually done to themselves. Now, what is interesting, if you look at this slide, you can look at December. You can see definitely December spiking, and that's your bonuses that's coming in. And then you see the pressure of January and February, and that pressure is coming because people is not getting overtime, and they're not getting recurring bonuses that's getting paid out on them. But what you're seeing is people that's earning above 20,000 Rand. In February 16, they were earning 18,000 Rand. And that has dropped to 15,000 Rand. So there's a 3,000 Rand drop on the income levels. And then if we analyze it, the big drop there is what is happening in the economy is the fact that people is not earning those overtime, they're not earning those bonuses, companies has pulled back, companies are paying later. And we've seen quite, if you go and look at the credit assessments, we've seen quite a lot of companies that they normally would have paid on the 25th, they're only paying on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, so they're paying 6, 7, 8 days later. Cash flow on those companies, and we see a lot of people that's actually lost their jobs. That's biggie. If you look at our arrears, the biggest contributing factor, about 70% of our arrears are caused with people that's got no inflow into their bank accounts. Just maybe a perspective, 85% of people that's bank or that's got credit with ourselves is actually banking with ourselves. So you can see the pressure on the client. This actually illustrates it probably better. So I'm looking at the private sector and I'm looking at government. And what we're looking at cash stress, so we're looking at plus minus 500,000 clients a year back, and that same 500,000 clients now. And we said, what has happened with themselves? We take their income that's coming in, and then we take all their, on the bureau, we can see all their debit orders and loan obligations. We can actually see, and we measure that. And we're saying people that's got 40%, more than 40% cash available are people that's in good standing. And you can see in the private sector that was 84%, and it's dropped to 70%. In the government, it was 74 to 70, and you can then see people with cash stress, less than 20% available, stayed plus minus the same, and the biggest contributing factor is people that's actually lost their income, has got no inflows, that's gone up to 16%. Where it's taken place, if you look at the private sector, people earning less than 5,000 Rand, where's the biggest stress? We do these two analyses, we're doing it per employer, per industry, per area to understand where the stresses is. And what we've done in our credit policies, and I will allude to it later on, especially on your smaller companies, your tiny companies, which is closing down, we've cut back quite a lot. And on your lower income people, we've cut back quite a lot in our credit policies to make certain that we can face the economy that's coming forward. So what you're seeing here is for sure economic stress in the economy. If you're looking at the banking clients, 8.5 million clients, I nearly said billion, 8.5 million clients. The nice thing is that figure as it's standing this morning is at 8.9 million clients. So we will go through 9 million clients in June. So I think that's a nice accomplishment to say we'll be in June over 9 million clients. And I think January, February, it's been shown in the video, 170,000 people joining us in January, 150,000 in February, 150,000 in March, 130,000 in April, and May is looking at 150,000. So we're still attracting a big portion of clients. The important figure is actually not how many clients we've got, it's actually how many banking clients we've got. The lower figure, 3.9 million, that figure is standing as this morning at just over 4 million, because those are people that's actually depositing their salaries with ourselves, because those people, income that we're getting out of transactional income is about 5 times higher than a normal client. So the big focus here is to actually to say, how many of that 8.5 million clients can we actually convince to come and bank with ourselves? So that is a very big driver of our transactional income. The next graph is a bit of perspective of South Africa. We get that question a lot and saying, but Capitec has only been there for the lower income or the poor people. When we built the bank, when Riaan was still active, we always said we're building it for all South Africans that's looking for simplistic, transparent banking services. But I think this gives you a bit of a reality. This study was done in 2015 by AMPS. And what the scary thing is, there's only 690,000 people that's earning more than 30,000 Rand a month in South Africa. The average salary in South Africa is 16,000 Rand per month. That's gross. If you're looking between 10 and 30,000, there's 4 million people. You can see there we've got 11% market share. Our objective there is to increase that market share in the next 2 to 3 years to 20%. And then on your below 10,000 Rand, that's 14.7 million clients, and we've got a market share there of about 25%. Currently, that market share is probably closer to 30% if you take the newest figures in consideration. I think the other reality check, when Provan Gordhan actually gave his budget speech in Parliament, he increased the top tax bracket from 42% to 45% for people earning more than 1.5 million a year. There's only 100,000 people in South Africa that's earning more than 1.5 million in South Africa, and they're contributing 27% of the tax base. So there's 100,000 that is contributing a hell of a lot in South Africa. So that gives you just a little bit of a perspective of the South African client. If we look at our offer, I think it's a very straightforward, simplified offer. If you can look at it, if you're doing self-service, it's costing you R1.50 per transaction. If you look at in-branch, R5, and if you withdraw cash, irrespective of the Rand value, at our ATMs it's R6, and at a different ATM it's R8. We get a lot of the other competitors are opposing ourselves with bundle accounts, normally a R100 bundle account. But if you look at what we're seeing, of our 8.5 million clients, 5.5 million of them are actually paying less than 50 Rand a month. So if you do a simple sum, if you do 10 self-service transactions, that's 15 Rand. Your monthly fee is 5 Rand. You withdraw 4 or 5 times, you're at 30, 40 Rand. You're still far away from a bundle account of 100 Rand. So what this is just showing, people are looking for value for money. We're giving it to a very simplistic pricing structure. If I look at client service, because to attract those clients costs a lot of focus and dedication and making certain our people is with ourselves. If you look at our distribution network, we've got now 800 branches, just over 800, it's 807. We've opened Canal Walk as our 800th branch 2 months ago. We've got over 300 branches that's opening on a Sunday. We've got about 70% of our branches that's actually operating from 8 till 6. So we are there when the client actually needs us. You can see the new look, a big focus on the new look, where we're upgrading our branches to the new look and feel. And then on our ATMs, 4,000 ATMs with a very important relationship with Spark, where they've got about 2,300 ATMs, making certain that we can produce our service in the market. If we look at the biggest impact this year is on self-service. I don't think anyone really knew that our strong self-service was in Capitec. And I'll show you some of those figures. There's 5.4 million clients that's using USSD. There's 1.8 million clients that is actually using our app. It's actually, that figure now is 2.1 million. I was talking now to Wim, our head of IT. We were doing this morning 1,000 transactions per second on the app. Now when we came in at 2 o'clock, we had 19 million transactions that was performed on the app. So it's a tremendous service opportunity for clients. While you're on the app, you've got free data, so it doesn't cost you anything. And then we've introduced self-service devices and DNRs. DNRs is our ATMs whereby you can deposit money and you can withdraw money. About 28% of our cash distributed is actually coming from our DNRs. And then our self-service devices, I'm not that often that I will acknowledge that I'm wrong, but yeah, I had to acknowledge I was wrong because we brought in the self-service devices. I said if we can move 20% of our, that's in branch, if we can move 20% of our clients within the first month, we've done exceptionally well. In the first month, we've moved 60% of our clients to self-service devices. So a tremendous influence of self-service devices, and you can actually see it in this figure. Remember, we measure every second that a client is in a branch. We understand what he's doing, what is he performing. So what the blue line is actually the number of tickets that's been called, and you can see that strong growth that's taking place to close to over 3 million that we're handling, that's coming through. You can see in March 16, our service delivery was at 26%. What that means is 26% of our people were waiting longer than 15 minutes to be served. So it's not a very nice stat, but that is where we were. If we look at what we've achieved, that figure is on 11.9%, and in March and May so far, we're looking at around about 7%. So only 7% of our clients are waiting longer than 15 minutes to be served, and you know the peaks and valleys that's taking place in retail. So you can see the big effect that the focus is on service, making certain we've got the right staff available, and then to make certain that we've got self-help devices where the volumes can be handled. And that's actually showing you the volume trend. On self-help devices last year, we did 720 million transactions, in branch 330 million. But I think if you look at December, you're sitting with the 80 million transactions being formed on self-help, and we're talking 35 million in branch. So you can see the effect of what self-help has done, enabling us to service our clients better. Now, I get that question, why are we still opening branches while everyone is actually closing, and what is self-help doing? What we're trying to do is actually to move transactions out of the branch and to actually have the ability to sell better to our clients. And when that client is in the branch, to optimize that client and make certain that he understands Global One fully, so that when he can go out there, he can talk to his friends and family. So the functionality in the branch is changing, that we're taking transactional out, but we're focusing more on the selling side in branch. So for this year coming, we still believe in opening 45 branches, but the big focus this year is just to upgrade our existing branches that's still in the old look and feel that we need to upgrade. Service culture, you don't achieve service without people, and I will talk to people now, but a very strong service culture. We measure service right through. We've started now in November that if a person comes into the branch, if he goes out, you get an SMS. You can reply on the SMS, was the service good and bad? And if it's bad, the branch manager himself will phone you and ask you what was wrong with the service. We're getting currently a 90% satisfaction call rate on that, so we're quite pleased with that. I think the biggest accolades there, if you look at those consumer satisfaction index, is for 4 years in a row, we've won it as the best retail bank. If you go and look at Ask Africa on service, we won it now 5 years in a row. So that's just giving you an indication of the service culture that there is in the branch. And then the best digital, the branch finance, the top 10 most powerful brands internationally. That's a reward that we won, and the one that we really enjoyed this week is to be voted the best digital bank in South Africa. I think everyone is surprised. I think FNB is the most surprised that we've overtaken them. But that just shows you, if you focus on simplicity and transparency and people understand what they're doing, then they appreciate what you are doing. So we had a very good year on service, and there's a big focus on the service side. If we look at service, you can't do it without people. So there's a big focus on leadership, people taking ownership. I will allude on that later on when I talk about the future. We're still employing about 3,500 people a year. Remember, these are new recruits, so we're bringing in about 300 people per month. I don't think there's a lot of companies that can say we're still employing 300 people per month in this economy. We had 5,200 people actually attending courses, and if you look at training, and it just shows you the emphasis on the training, last year we did 55,000 training interventions, making certain our people are ready to provide that service. 10,000 of that learning intervention was face-to-face, and 45,000 of that was electronic. You can see on the functional technical side, you can see the big focus there, and that was the credit card. And then you can see on the leadership side, the big focus on the leadership side, and then to make certain that we're compliant, you can see the number of training interventions that was actually taking place on compliance. So there will be and always will be a big focus on the people side. If we look at credit, yeah, interesting year. I've already mentioned that we've cut back in certain areas. It was probably the most difficult year in my 17 years with the bank. We've made changes probably every single month to adjust and make certain we're ready for the economy. Every time we think we've cut back enough, then we had to cut back more. We've brought in a credit estimate, and that's whereby a client can come into the branch, and within 2 minutes we can assess the client and make certain and say to him, yes, you're good for credit or you're not good for credit. And you can see it in our applications. We've handled, in November 15, we've handled 320,000 applicants. In November 16, you can see 410. So close to about 100,000 more applicants per month that we're actually handling it. The interesting thing, if you look at our accept rate, that is if the guy goes through our credit policy, the accept rate was 56%. That's dropped to 39%. It's currently on 36%. So what does it mean? If there's 100 people coming in, only 36 people will be good for credit. And then the take-up rate is the rate that the client will say, I'm happy with the offer and I'll take it up. And that's now at 31% or 27% currently as we're standing now. And we see that continuing until the economy is actually starting to pick up. If we look at arrears, it's quite an interesting and a busy slide. I think if you look at our arrears, it's up from 5.6 to 6.3%. A big driver of that is we've cut back on rescheduling. If you look at rescheduling clients that's in arrears and clients that's not in arrears, we've cut back quite a lot. Clients that was in arrears, you can actually see with the book growth, we've actually kept that flat at 1.5 billion. And then clients that was not in arrears, we've actually dropped that with 800 million. So if you look at your total arrears, it's actually dropped from 13% to 12%. So I think overall, given the economy, actually, I think we've done well on the credit side. The more important thing, are we well provided for? And I think if you look at that last figure, you can see if we take all arrears and everything that's been rescheduled, last year this time we had 91% provided for. As we're standing now, we're 107% provided for. So if all those clients goes bad, we are 107% provided on themselves. I don't think there's a lot of banks that can actually say that. If we look at the credit card, and maybe I must just give some perspective on the credit card. When we launched the credit card, we said we were going to be conservative. We're not going to be aggressive in the market. We'll learn the credit card. It's a new product. So we said we'll launch for a 7-8 months period, and then we'll slowly but surely adjust the pricing, and we'll adjust our credit risk appetite. Currently, we're attracting about 20,000 clients per month that's joining us on the credit card. We said in the video, we now have got 133,000 people on the credit card. Our book on the credit card is already $1 billion after 7 months. So that gives you just the size of what we're handling. It's growing with about 200 million per month. So we're quite happy with the credit card's growth. Our next phase is actually aggressively looking and say, but how can we penetrate this market and how can we optimize it? And then we will start with above-the-line marketing in Q3. And the plan is that we will look in the new year, we will look at people that self-employed to actually start taking on that particular market. So we're quite happy with the performance of the credit card. I think if you're looking 6-7 months later and you've already got a book of $1 billion, we're quite happy with that performance. If we look at funding, retail funding is basically give you an indication of the trust in the brand. If I look at our retail funding call, that's grown from 24 billion to 30 billion. If I look at our fixed term, it's grown from 13 billion to 17 billion. And then you can see the wholesale side is actually coming down because we're managing it. We don't need that funding. Our capital adequacy is at 34%. So we're quite happy with that growth. Our growth in the retail fix is around about 500 million per month. So you can clearly see the trust in the brand and people accepting it. And that then also for us, very importantly, Andre went out to the market to raise money. We don't need that, but we believe it's important to be in the market. We raised 500 million, but we were 4.5 times oversubscribed. So we're quite happy with the performance, and that's with a downgrade and uncertainty in our market. We've managed to be 2.5 times oversubscribed. International, that's probably the surprised one that people didn't expect. We always said we're going to focus on South Africa, but whenever myself and Andre was overseas, we were looking at certain areas. We came across this company, Cream Finance. It's a pilot lending company. It's operating in 6 countries. It's got very similarities to where Capitec was in 2000, 2001. Very nice, innovative, young, energetic management team. They've got very sophisticated credit scoring models that we believe we can bring into our online business on this side. They've identified about 30 countries as possible places to expand to. We've got the experience to grow a company from small to big, so we believe it's a good match. We also believe while they building the online platform, we will build a digital banking platform on this side, and I'll allude to that later on, and then you can merge that all together, and I think then you've got a very unique product. So we're quite happy with our acquisition. So it's that first step to actually go international. It's only an investment of around about 280 million, so it's a very small investment if you go and look at our whole balance sheet, but importantly it's giving us that experience on the international market. The future, I think I'm going to kick off with our new brand campaign. If you look at our brand to date, we've always been focusing on the Ask Why campaign, very functional. What do you get as a client? The Join Us campaign, and we've moved basically over to a more emotional campaign. And what I would like, this was launched on the 18th of May, so it's very recently, and I would like to share with yourself a little bit of the making of the TV ad, that you understand the why, and then showing you the new ad that's actually been shown on TV now.
I honestly think in Capitec's history, this is the biggest campaign that we've put together. But really the message is a natural progression from our previous messages, which were simple functional messages. But we realized that what really matters to people are often not the functional or the logic, it's the emotion. And we took that little bit of insight, the fact that people don't buy what you do, but why you do it, and said, how should we communicate? How do we put a campaign together that makes why Capitec exists visible to our clients?
The client said to us, one thing that's mandatory is we want a young up-and-coming director to produce this. And we looked around and we found Dan Mace. He's a YouTube sensation. In his showreel, he espoused all the values that are associated with the Capitec brand. So we thought that that was a perfect match from our point of view.
Right in the beginning process of this ad, we said, how do we highlight bank benefits? So it's not just explainer video, and it's not just a pointlessly emotive piece of content, but it's the two together. We are Capitec, and we are an enabler of the awesome that we're about to show you, and that's been a vision come to life.
We've got a fantastic team of marketers with different opinions, so we went through numerous rounds of rigorous debate about this concept and what is the best way to communicate it and how do we bring it to life.
We've got the bank better side and the live better side equally weighted, so when they get this tangible item, they have the thought of what this item's going to bring them in their live better moment, and with the two of those put together, it equals this explosive scene at the end, being this bank better and live better moment with each character, which makes a lot of sense visually.
A Capitec person looks like you, a Capitec person looks like me. It's a person that thinks differently, that finds smart ways, clever ways to do the daily things that seem like routine. It's more about the behavior as opposed to it's this age and it's this demographic. Music cuts across society, brings people together. It's something that is unifying. So we created a track. The track will be used in our TV commercial. And we gave it to 3 artists and we said, you're welcome to remix this. So those remix tracks will be downloadable, free of charge. We went on further to create documentaries. These are stories of ordinary South Africans that are great at what they do, through their lens, again showcasing the message of banking better and living better.
We often say we're a brand for young people of all ages. It's the mindset of questioning the norm and saying, but why do I have to do things the way it's always been done, when really I just need basic, simple, transparent, honest, affordable banking? And those are the people that this message will resonate with.
Yeah, I think it's completely different. Yeah. It's in line with our strategy going forward. We want to be the financial friend of the client. We want to support the client, and you'll see it now and going into the future, how we will work with the client and to make his banking better for him and how he can actually live better. So we're very excited about the campaign. We're excited about the whole musical. We'll play it to you later on that you can actually hear it. So it's completely different. And there's quite a lot of things that we're doing to enhance the brand. So it's part of the journey that we're on. If we look at the future, the 2 things that will always be there is service and people. A very big focus on that. If I look at service, what we are working now, and it links onto our efficiency side, is to have a single view of the client and a single view on the client that the look and feel of the client, what he's experiencing in branch, at BSC, on an app, online is exactly the same. And then very importantly also is to have a full history of that particular client, so whoever works with that particular client knows exactly what's happened in that client. I get irritated when I talk to a call center, especially DSTV, and I have to explain everything over again when I talk to a person and they haven't got any history of it. So that's one of our drives, to make certain that we've got that full history. We've launched the whole CEO concept, and that is basically what I believe is every single person in the bank must be a CEO. He needs to take ownership of what he's doing. It's not only myself. So on that, as we're looking at the client is first. So everything you're doing it for the client, and you go that extra mile. You take ownership of that, and then you need to have the energy on that. We've launched that about 2 months ago, and it's been taken off very successful in the bank. And then service measurements right across. If I look at efficiency, we spend quite a lot of time to say how should the branch and the BSC and head office look of 2020 and 2025. We're bringing in quite a lot of new ideas and things that's going to come in, voice recognition, face recognition and things like that. It's going to come into our branches. I'll allude to that later on. So we are working constantly to say to ourselves, how can we improve the efficiency in the bank? On the people side, I think the most important thing is that culture of greatness. Good is the enemy of greatness, so we need to make certain our people is not average. We need to make certain our people is great, and to achieve that, we need to inspire our people. We need to give them ownership. We need to lead them, and that will be the focus that we'll focus going forward. On the business delivery side, Maybe the biggest change in the bank for quite a while is we've worked on a waterfall method. If we develop new products or projects, waterfall means you look at the business specs, you spec that, then you do the functional specs, then you do the technical specs, then you test, and then you implement. Our average on our project delivery was about 16 months. What are we sitting with? We're sitting with a client base that is changing faster and faster. His needs is coming in quicker and quicker, and we need to adapt much quicker. So what we've done is to move the whole bank onto an agile platform that we're working on 2-week sprints, and we're starting with the business, functional, technical, and testing at the same time, but basically in a 2-week sprint. Other banks or other companies are working normally just on banking. We're doing it right across the whole, just on the IT side, we're doing it right across the whole company. So that's quite interesting, and we're already down to about a 9 months project delivery. Our aim is to bring that down to 6 months. We're spending quite a lot of time to increase our IT capacity. There's another 120 people in our budget. Quality clients, I've already alluded to that. Our market share is 10%. And we would like that to take that up to 20% over the next 2 years. So there's a big focus to make certain that we penetrate that particular market. Gauteng and those areas are a big focus. You'll see a big portion of our advertising campaigns and marketing spend is in those areas. I want to talk digital. Everyone is talking digital, or everyone is talking fintech. Everyone is talking big data. Everyone is talking machine learning. And I thought I'm going to share a short video with yourself just to explain these concepts, because it's quite difficult concepts sometimes. I also struggle with that. So I thought let's do a little bit video and just share with you the basic concept of when we're talking fintechs and the new innovations that's actually coming into our particular area.
Banking used to be seen as an imposing industry with formal structures clouded by policies, procedures, and corporate red tape. But the advent of the personal computer and the smartphone has disrupted the banking industry to such an extent that the old way of doing is hardly recognizable these days. The digital revolution is advancing at an exponential pace. Advances over the past 10 years, like the iPhone or Uber, could be matched or exceeded in the next 5 years, and again in the next 2 to 3 years. We as consumers are now facing real alternatives from fintech companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, and numerous smaller digital banking, lending, and payment platforms. Worldwide, people are adopting digital solutions that make it simpler and more affordable to bank anywhere, anytime, anyhow. Let's look at some of the key digital advances that make these solutions possible and that impact banking today. Big data. Big data is a term for data sets that are so large or complex that traditional data processing software like Excel is inadequate to deal with it. This term also refers to the use of predictive analytics, user behavior analytics, or certain other advanced data analysis methods that extract value from the data. AI, or artificial intelligence. The theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. Early examples include Siri, Google Assistant, and Amazon Alexa. Machine learning. Machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence that provides computers with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Machine learning focuses on the development of computer programs that can change when exposed to new data. Biometrics. Biometric verification is any means by which a person can be uniquely identified by evaluating one or more distinguishing biological traits. Unique identifiers include fingerprints, hand geometry, facial recognition, retina and iris patterns, voice waves, DNA, and signatures. blockchain. Blockchains are an open, distributed ledger that can record transactions between two parties efficiently and in a verifiable and permanent way. It is a distributed database that maintains a continuously growing list of records called blocks, secured from tampering and revision. Each block contains a timestamp and a link to the previous block. The ledger itself can also be programmed to trigger transactions automatically. Cryptocurrency. A digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds, operating independently of a central bank. Bitcoin being the perfect example using a blockchain transaction database. Fintech. A financial solutions company driven by technology and innovation to support or enable banking or financial services. Fintechs deliver digital solutions and often specialize in reducing friction or creating novel methods for specific sections of the financial ecosystem. Examples include SnapScan, PayPal, and Mint.com. Electronic payments. Electronic payment systems enable clients to access value from an account via a card or cell phone to do payments for services or goods or to transfer value or money. There are two systems. Closed-loop payment systems, such as a gift card, allows the holder of the card to pay for items, for example, to purchase a book at Exclusive Books. But this gift card cannot be used outside of Exclusive Books. An open payment system is, for example, a MasterCard branded credit or debit card that allows the cardholder to draw cash or pay for goods or services in any location, both locally or internationally, that displays the MasterCard acceptance logo. Bank functionality as we know it is becoming a simpler commodity. Our competitive advantage is our strong brand, the relationship we own with more than 8.5 million South Africans, and our ability to adopt and adapt these new digital advances to help our clients bank better so that they can live better.
I hope you now fully understand digital banking. You can see it's changed a little bit from a branch manager and a consultant and be very simplistic. That's the new world we're going in, and what we're fighting is to say to ourselves, how do we take these fintech and new technology and how do we actually bring it into the bank, and how do we make certain that we can actually deliver to the needs of the client of 2020 and 2025. The scary thing is if you look at a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old, currently an iPad is nothing new. 10 years from now, that person is 15 years old, then you need to think about the demands that that person is going to put onto banking and how the way that person would like to operate. So that's what we facing. What are we doing? Where are we? We fully try and understand it. We've got a new digital department of about 120 people. It's costing about 200 million rand. That's separately operating in the company, focusing just on digital banking. We've partnered with Rocket Space and MasterCard clubs, and maybe I must explain that to yourself, is that you've got in the world, you've got about 3 million fintech companies. Now you can imagine to evaluate all those fintech companies to say what is going to work for us and what is not going to work for us is impossible. So what they actually do, they're incubators. They evaluate about 1,000, given your needs, they evaluate about 1,000, they slim that down to about 10, 15, and then every 3-4 months our people is overseas actually working with these people and actually working with these fintech companies to understand and to bring those ideas back. So we're members of Rocket Space, we're members of MasterCard Labs, where we're on a continuous basis going overseas and making certain that we're on top of it. Just to give you an indication, our senior people last year did about 56 trips overseas, and we will probably be close to about 100 trips overseas this current year to make certain that we understand what's happening internationally. Are we scared of fintechs? I think a fintech on its own, and the one thing they haven't got, or a couple of things they haven't got, they can't handle volumes. They security, international security, they're weak on. They're not on regulatories, but they're very sharp and innovative. So we believe the fintechs on its own, it's not a big threat. The important thing is actually to partner with the right fintechs to make certain that they can enhance your whole digital space, and that's where we're spending a lot of time. So just to explain to yourself, digital banking, where we're heading, what are we doing? Our first task is to make certain that we can identify a client and then we can onboard you anywhere, anytime. So that means you will be able to open an account anywhere, anytime. So we'll use facial recognition, we'll biometrics, voice. We'll take and actually measures, identify yourself and then bring yourself in. For example, if you go into a branch, we're piloting now in October, 6 branches with facial recognition. So as you come, we'll recognize yourself, and then we immediately would know what products you've got, what products you haven't got, and we can actually, while you're waiting, we can actually start selling to yourself. The one that I enjoy, and people don't believe me, but I've seen it in America last year when I was in San Francisco, is mood recognition. And I would love to have that for my wife to understand her mood. But if you just look at the simplicity of that, is to understand if a client is angry, is in a hurry, whatever his mood is, and then that gives you insight into those consultants so that they can actually work with that client better. Mobile payments, there's a lot of happening in the mobile payment space. I think the old way of paying with a card is going to disappear. You're going to pay with your cell phone, you can pay with your watch, you can pay with biometrics. So there's a lot of changes taking in the whole mobile payment space. We're intensively looking at the informal market to say how can we enhance the payment side in the informal market to open up new markets for ourselves. To give you an indication, just we're working with MasterCard on Quicker. Quicker is where you've got the ability to, for example, if you want to go to a restaurant, you can actually order your food beforehand, and when you arrive, it's ready for yourself. And then the one that I actually enjoy is that if you have to pay, you don't need to call a waiter because you normal struggle, and then the person needs to go now take a point of sale machine, you press a button, and payment is done, and you're off. That we've launched. We've got MasterPass, where by QR code you just swipe and your payment is done. As I think a lot of you know, the way SnapScan is working. So there's a lot of things that's happening on the electronic payment side. If I look at the rest of my financial life, what we're working on that particular area, you've got the rest of your financial, you've got your banking on the side, you've got your assets on the side, you've got your medical on another side. So if you're looking at, for example, what is your equities and what shares you're investing, it's every time you need to go a new app or a new online, and the whole purpose here is to bring everything together under the Capitec app, and you can see your whole financial world in one, giving you the ownership and understanding what's taking place in that particular area. And then on mobile banking, that is where we're changing the app. Yeah, it's quite scary. You've just won the best app award, and then we're changing it. But what we are doing is, the first thing is that we can personalize it. So currently the app is, you need to take the way we design it. You need to accept that. Maybe that's the best way. But you can actually personalize it the way what is for you important. And then the most important thing is we're creating a platform underneath where you can plug in and plug out. So what I mean by that is if you want to partner with a particular fintech, you can actually plug in. And if that partner, if you find a new fintech that's better, you can actually plug out and you plug in the new fintech. So you give that opportunity for yourself to actually be more flexible on the integration side to be faster to the market. And then the most important one is probably client insights, where we're going to use big data and machine learning, where we really want to understand the client's behavior. What is he doing on social media? What is he doing on the transactional side? What is he doing where he's buying? So that in real time we can communicate to yourself and say, but here's alternatives. Currently what we're doing with our direct marketing campaigns is not real time, it's on a 24-hour basis, but we can actually track you and we'll know from GPS coordinates, etc., where you are and what you're doing, and then we can actually talk to yourself and say, hey, here's a better option. And we got insights then in financial literacy, because I think that's one big area that we need to focus is on the financial literacy. The interesting thing is if you look at what we're building and the platform we're building, the brief to the team is we've got 9 million clients. They need to build a platform that we can handle 90 million clients so that we are ready to take this international. So that is what we're building on the digital side. From our side, I would like to thank the shareholders. I would like to thank the board for their support, Rian as chairman for his support, the discussions we've had, to my management team. But I think the most important is to the Capitec people, the team, the staff. Without them, we won't be successful. It's one big team, and that's the Capitec team that makes us successful. So from our side, thank you very much.